have stuff we're giving away. Does that get your attention? Welcome to In Goal Radio, the podcast, brought to you by the Hockey Shop, source for sports Langley, thehockeyshop.com. We are into the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, maybe out of it by the time you listen to this, moving on to the second round, and it's been eventful. We'll get into some of the happenings in and around the Stanley Cup postseason. Also, our feature interview is going to revisit a former Edmonton goaltender, and Dwayne Roloson is going to stop by. Here's Kevin Woodley and David Hutchison. Hey, Woody, have we had Rolly on?
We have not, and that is a very bad omission by me because this is such a good interview that, you know, normally guys that played, and Rolly played 18 years in the NHL, you start with their career, you know. We went straight into everything he's done since playing, including coaching in the National Hockey League and then becoming a player development coach in recent years in the NCAA. And filled more than an hour loaded with advice. And outside of Edmonton and his time there and how it leads to a mindset tip, we never touched his playing days. Like we touched him in the sense that a lot of what he's done since is informed by his experiences playing, and that weaves throughout this entire conversation. But it is, let's just say, we left room for a part two just to go to his playing days. Normally it would be the opposite, but this guy has done so much and has so many great ideas and opinions. This is, and I say this a lot, this is a can't misser. Like, this is a can't miss interview. Rolly was amazing. He's thinking about getting back into the NHL after leaving for family reasons, leaving the Ducks for family reasons. And I'm glad he caught up with us. There's probably a lot of teams that are going to listen to this and be like, I'd like some of those ideas in my organization.
Great timing given what's going on in Edmonton, and he was with the Oilers on a great, fabulous march to the Stanley Cup final in which they had three goaltenders and were moving things around. So there was similarities in a way that there was goalie situations that are unique to those parts at the time and the Edmonton Oilers right now. Here's Hutch. I got to say, we have something to give away. What is it that we have that's available?
How about a custom set of CCM eFlex 7 gear, pads and gloves? I think it's a great opportunity for everybody out there, but you need to do just a little tiny bit of work to do it. You don't have to go and design the gear early and post it up on socials or anything like that. It's quite simple to enter, but you need to go to ingoalmag.com. You need to click on the link for the guide to goalie coaches and goalie camps and find the ad for CCM's eFlex 7 gear. Click on that ad or use the QR code that's on there and you will get taken to the entry form. You can enter once a day right up until the end of the contest, and great opportunity to set yourself or your son or your daughter up with a custom set of gear. You'll be able to go into the customizer, choose everything you want. This isn't the full all-out version, but you will have access to all sorts of great opportunities. Just a little side note, if your son or daughter is too small to fit the senior gear, you won't be able to customize it because they don't customize junior sizes, but we will replace it with something that fits whoever you would like this gear for. So great opportunity. And check out that guide to goalie schools and goalie coaches, or check out the online directory where you can search for one in your local area or one that offers the kind of program that you're interested in. There's 165 plus schools in there now, and it continues to grow. Just a great opportunity. You can get right in there and you can ask questions of the individual coaches through a link on each listing. Been a labor of love for us, but we're pretty proud of what we put together. A great resource for goalie parents and goalies out there.
Go to ingoalmag.com and check it out and get involved in your chance to win a custom set of eFlex 7 gear. We've got another first round that's full of multiple goaltenders. Woody?
Funny how that happens right now. I don't love that some of it's because of injury. Hate even more that some of it's because of crease collisions. But you got to have two to get through the season. You got to play two to get through the season. And as we're seeing in the playoffs, quite often you need two to get through the postseason. Where it gets interesting to me is some of the decisions made, and we haven't really seen this. Like, Carolina had to make the decision because Freddie got ran. So they went to Kochetkov. I was wondering if that series dragged on, if they made, and they go to double OT the other night. like for the goalies that don't play a lot during the regular season, I wondered if we might see some of these by choice. We haven't in Toronto, and Anthony Stolarz isn't the problem as the Senators come back from a 3-0 deficit to make it 3-2. But this is where the risk comes in, okay? Is your guy wearing down as the series goes on, and now you've waited so long the other guy hasn't been on the ice for 10 days or hasn't seen game situations for 10 days? So I'll be curious to see if anybody regrets not making a switch earlier, but you're right. So far, we've seen a lot of switches and none bigger than in the Edmonton series where Calvin Pickard is 3-0 since taking over for Stuart Skinner.
Has he played better than you expected?
Expected is a good word here, Darren, because when we talk about expected save percentage, which is a measurement of the environment each goaltender faces, and this is a trend I do Edmonton radio and a trend I've followed all season long, the Oilers, and their coach alluded to this between games 3 and 4 when asked about whether he'd go back and stick with Calvin, they play better statistically for Pickard than they do for Skinner. Now, some of this is circumstantial. It could be the opponents you see during the regular season. Here we are in the playoffs. It's the same opponent 5 games in a row. And I do think still there's circumstances. The Oilers clearly did not have their best game in the first 2, and they found their game in the next 3. And game 5 was domination like we haven't seen at any other point in the playoffs. After being dominated to a similar effect in game 1. But through 5 games, Stuart Skinner's expected save percentage after the first 2 was .872. And after game 5, Calvin Pickard's is .914. That is 2 goalies playing behind the same team and not seeing the same stuff, not seeing the same environment in front of it. Now,
okay, explain that for people that don't understand the math that you presented.
What the league average goaltender would stop based on the quality of shots faced is your expected save percentage. It's a way of measuring your environment. Obviously, .872 is low for Skinner. In other words, tough defensive environment. A lot of that was game 1, 5-on-3, 2-minute penalty kill that he got through where they were just bombarding him with grade A's. So that built up a lot of his, tougher defensive environment. But it's a measurement of defensive environment. .914 is well above league average for Calvin Pickard, but it's been this way all season. Pickard's .905 in the regular season was the highest in the entire NHL.
So he has an easier environment.
Easier. I always hesitate to, it's different and statistically easier. I mean, sometimes low shots are tough mentally, right? Like there's different ways to measure easier, but at the end of the day, based on the numbers, it's an easier environment. Now, that said, the interesting thing here is through the first 2 games, Stewart had faced 19 high danger chances. Pickard has faced 19 high danger chances after 3 games. Stu gave up 9 goals. Pickard's only given up 3 on those. So the irony is overall his environment has been easier or better defensively, but on the tough chances, he's made a lot more saves. And that was sort of the argument after 2 games that you heard around Edmonton was like, yeah, they're giving up a ton, but you're allowed to save those too. And so neither goalie's above expected, but Calvin and again, Knobloch alluded to this in key moments of some of these games when there's a high danger chance. Now, they're not one after the other like they were in the first 2 games, but when there is one, he's rising to that occasion and making those saves. So it's a really fascinating study. They couldn't be more opposite as goaltenders in terms of how they move, their size, but for whatever reason, and Pickard is as popular a teammate as you will find, the Oilers defend better in front of him. They have all season statistically, and they're doing it again in the playoffs. And that's, at the end of the day, I said after 2 games, again, because I do Edmonton radio on a weekly basis, I said after 2 games, they're going nowhere unless they improve their defensive play, because the first game against the Kings was more high danger chances and more expected goals against than any single playoff game from their run to the Cup final last year. It was their worst defensive performance, worse than anything they did last year, and the worst single game defensive performance that we'd seen in the playoffs overall up until the Kings last night against Edmonton in Game 5.
So is Calvin Pickard the difference right now, or is he just not being the difference? You know what I mean?
Not having to be.
Yeah.
He is making more of the tough saves than his counterpart did earlier in the series. if he's the reason they play better defensively, and I can't answer this, Hutch was asking about, does puck handling make a difference? Stu handles it more. Does that change where their defensemen come back to and their breakout and their forecheck? There's a lot of questions. I don't have the answer on why, but if having him in the net is what allows you to get to the defensive identity that got you to the Stanley Cup final last year, then he is making the difference, courtesy of them being able to get back to that game with him in there.
And let's not forget, the best defensive environment is when you've got the puck at the other end of the ice. And it was at the other end of the ice a lot last night.
And it was, and that's what I mean. Like last night, the Kings had they had 3 high danger, 1 mid danger, and expected goals of 1. Like they did nothing.
Yeah, and it's a little easier to make some high danger saves when, as you said before, they're not one after the other. I'm not sure every high danger save is the same.
It was kind of a reversal of game 1. Like the Kings were all over the Oilers in game 1 and bombarded Stewie, and the Oilers were all over the Kings in game 5 at a similar rate without the pushback, though. The Oilers pushed back in game 1. The Kings had no pushback in game 5. Now, the difference is, lest we forget, Vezina Trophy finalists have been named, and the guy at the other end of the last night, Darcy Kemper, who's a deserving finalist, led the league in goals saved above expected. Yes, folks, had more goals saved above expected than Connor Hellebuck. Led the league in it. He was really good last night to keep that thing close.
Darcy Kemper, Andrei Vasilevsky, and Connor Hellebuck, the Vezina Trophy finalists. Oddly, all 3 trail in their series in the first round. There's no link there. It's just strange when you think about that. But
whoa! Do you got a crystal ball? Because I'm pretty sure the Jets and the Blues are tied at 2.
You're right. It just feels like they're trailing.
It does feel like that, doesn't it?
Connor Hellebuck's been pulled in back-to-back games. That didn't happen all year.
Yeah. And this, you talk about spotlights, we get into what the focus is like, the glare is like in Edmonton with Dwayne Roloson in our feature interview, because he's lived it in a Canadian market. I can't imagine that it is any brighter than it is shining on Connor Hellebuck right now. Like he's going to win his 3rd Vezina Trophy, 2 in a row. That is like that. Like guys, like his career path right now is rubber stamped to the Hockey Hall of Fame. The trophies he's piling up. Like it is do not pass go, do not collect $200 straight to the Hockey Hall of Fame. And yet here we are in the first round of the playoffs again, and the spotlight is shining very bright on, why he hasn't been able to match that. And I do think some of it, we get into environment. He's given up 14 goals in the Stanley Cup playoffs. You know that 9 of them are a combination of screens and broken plays. We've talked about what makes Connor elite, the ability to read the game. I think when we get to the playoffs, teams do such a focused and incredible job of taking away his ability to read the game by taking away his ability to see the puck. And in the past 2 games, that has led to chaos and scrambles at a rate the Jets haven't given up all year. 7 of the 8 broken play high danger chances are in the last 2 games. 5 goals off those 4 of the 5 in the last 2 games. They're just creating chaos in front of him. And right now, he's also not getting any bounces. Like the bounces are all off somebody's ass and in, as opposed to off a leg and out. And so it's really interesting he was better than the average Bear. He was well above expected in both screens and broken plays in the regular season. But I think right now the intensity with which teams are attacking those things is just really hard for any goaltender, and requires a higher level of urgency from some of the guys in front of his crease helping him out. Screens are not just about goaltenders picking the right sight line. They're about shot blocking forwards being in the right lane and then actually blocking a shot. And we've seen a couple of examples in this series where the focus was on forwards not getting out and blocking a shot they should have. Truth be told, they weren't even in the right lane as they headed out there. So they're creating layered screens on their goaltender by not being in the correct lane per the system. And as I've talked to you guys about before, everybody thinks, shots from distance. I don't care if you didn't see it, you got to stop it. A layered screen that hits the top corner, either side of the net, goes in more than a breakaway in the NHL over the past 2 years. These are not easy.
Connor Hellebuck still has an opportunity to rescue this postseason and advance. He just needs a couple of performances in the final 3 games against the St. Louis Blues and Jordan Binnington, who has been great again as those two square off against each other. Hellebuck wins it. Who do you think is the runner-up for the Vezina, or the the
How about-
winner, because Hellebuck's had this, felt like Hellebuck had this thing won
In
wire
December.
to wire. Yeah.
Yeah, in December. And his numbers fell off in 2025 after January 1st a little bit, but the lead was so huge. How about I give you guys a quiz, Darren? Because we talked earlier about environments and expected save percentages. 2 of the 3 Vezina Trophy finalists named this week, Vasilevsky, Hellebuck, and Kemper, 2 of the 3 also had 2 of the 3 easiest environments, highest expected save percentages in the league. I already told you that Calvin Pickard was first. So if you were picking the names of those 2 out of those 3 who were in the easiest environments, who would they be? We need some Jeopardy music, producer.
Los Angeles is a goalie-friendly environment, is it not?
Yeah, I would pick them.
So who's them?
LA.
And there's 2 of the 3 who are in the easiest environments, which is how you get raw numbers like they got. It's not taking anything away from their performance, but a lot of the raw numbers that this voting is based on is team influenced.
I'll go LA and Winnipeg.
Darren?
Vegas?
No, the 2 of the 3 Vezina Trophy finalists. 2 of the 3 Vezina Trophy finalists played in the easiest environments in the league.
So it's not Winnipeg?
It can be. He said 2 of the 3.
2 of the 3.
Yeah,
Pick 2.
Winnipeg. And LA.
And
LA.
it's not LA.
Really?
It's
not.
It's Andre Vasilevsky and Connor Hellebuck. Now, I think that you can make an argument that they influence those environments with their consistency because players have to trust the system and they have to trust a goaltender behind them to execute within it. And if you have that belief, you are less likely to chase plays outside of your system and come apart defensively because you trust the guy behind you. So this is not to discredit either one of them in any way, shape, or form. I actually think in both cases they influence a positive defensive environment. But the reality is Vasilevsky and Hellebuck had 2 of the highest expected save percentages in the league. Amongst guys that saw a couple hundred shots or more, only Calvin Pickard was higher. And it really goes to show you the narrative about the Kings slipped this year. And a lot of their success really was, as we saw in Game 5. And in fairness, haven't really seen to this point in the series, but Darcy Kemper was that good. And that's why he leads the league in goals saved above expected in the regular season. Because the environment was looser than you thought, and he was that much better and full value to be a finalist. And honestly, Darren, I think he probably finishes 3rd in the voting, but he should finish 2nd.
I actually think the goalie can influence that environment through their play as well, Kevin, not just the psychological aspect of the team, knowing that they have somebody who can shut the door behind them and that they can trust. Rebound control would be a really simple one. I stood and watched a junior game with an NHL goalie scout, not watching my child, just to be clear. And he wasn't sold on the goalie he was watching because he gave out so many little short rebounds that got stuffed right back into his pads. It made him look better because the numbers climbed. Of course, they're really easy rebound saves, but that might make the defensive environment look worse because there's so many more shots happening. Your puck handling can influence the defensive environment, although I'm not sure it's 100% clear how that is. But if you're really good at it, and I think Connor Hellebuck was better this year than he has been in the past, you're going to get more breakouts for your team, and there's going to be fewer opportunities. So let's not discount the goaltender's ability to influence that as well.
I 100% agree on rebounds, but just a quick note on those little in-tight ones that have no chance of going in. They get counted.
Yeah, they're low danger.
They get counted high danger by most models, but not by the one I'm referring to, Clearsight Analytics, because there were a number of sort of second chance opportunities in a game recently. I think it might have even been the 3rd period in overtime of Game 4 against the Oilers for Darcy Kemper, where there were lateral plays and pucks on net, and he made the first save, and that was high danger, but then 2 or 3 whacks right in front of his pad where he's already in position. Those ones did not count as high danger, and I'm pretty sure every other analytics system out there based on the location of them would have labeled them. But as you know, as a goaltender, as this system measures, once you're there, it ain't going through you.
Interesting. We got a few notes from Shannon Zabados this week over a couple of things, and I noticed her doing some teaching online. I think it was a Facebook video she posted about dealing with some of those in tight situations, and she was talking about how easy they were if you use your pads appropriately. that's just a little aside there. But Woody, can you just explain for people out there, just to be really clear, because I waving my parent flag here again, and parents love to count shots and think about what's happening in front of them. Are you saying that those little shovel into the pads are counted as high danger by some companies simply because they're sort of in the house in that area between the dots and the slot?
Yes. And I would say that almost all public models, which are based on play-by-play and largely distant reliant, count them as high danger.
Edmonton just flooded Darcy Kemper's feet with pucks, like over and over, and in front of his pads, and just jamming away at it. And on a one-off, you're like, okay, he's got it. But he was under siege with that last night, and I felt anxious watching it happen over and over.
And to be clear, the banging in off the pads I was referring to was Game 4, and in third period and overtime. I didn't get to watch Game 5 last night because I actually got to go play myself.
Oh, good for you.
I'm looking largely at the numbers.
How was
here,
your save expectancy?
You know what? Last night was my first skate in like 6 weeks, and it went a lot better than I expected, Darren.
All right.
For first time in a while.
Kevin's expectations weren't
my expected, Kevin's expected based on performance, not environment, is always low. It's important to go in with low expectations. But I had two guys that played pro tap me on the pads after the game and say it's the best they've ever seen me. So it's like that first round of golf before you set the expectations. It always goes better than expected.
That's great.
I wonder if it fits with the little tip I would give for people in those scrambly situations in front of the net. Because too many goalies try and adjust too often. I need to be doing something. I need to get a little closer to that puck, rather than realizing you probably have the entire net covered, and the best thing you can possibly do is nothing. Because as soon as you try and move, you lift your pad, you create a hole. So Woody, if you're immobile and don't move, you're probably making a lot of saves.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of like guys flooding the net for jam plays at the Tuesday night skate. But my point,
buddy, I'm just trying to give you some props here.
I suck. Let's be honest.
Woody, be nice to yourself.
I had a horseshoe.
This is going to be Woody be nice to himself day, and I'm not going to chirp at you.
He's so good. He even stops.
We have this article, folks. We have this article online. We have this article featuring like half a dozen NHL goalies explaining how to manage those situations. The scrambles, the chaos that we talked about Hellebuck facing, and these, like, what's the best thing to do? And it's the hardest thing to convince yourself of. We have half a dozen. Go find it online at ingolmag.com. I'll create a link to it. It's in the archives. It's from earlier this season. And they all talk about just a little drift back and stay home. Like, do not chase in those scrambles. Because as Hutch said, as soon as you move, you're opening holes. And it's really hard to convince yourself you don't have to move. But you've all been there as goaltenders, where as soon as you do, the puck squirts through. And so, you know, in Darcy's case, Darcy uses a lot of paddle down, maybe more than any other goalie in the NHL. But it's a great tip for anybody who may be experiencing the same thing. The chaos in front of the crease has never been higher in the NHL, and we've got a handful of NHL goalies that advise you on how to survive it.
So looking for the puck like you've got a leash in your hand and you're chasing your dog around the house to go for a walk isn't the way to handle that?
I mean, it's how I do it, but it's probably not the best way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Woody, be nice to yourself. We're going to call him out every time he flags himself today.
I was freaking great last night. Let's put it that way. So there we go.
Thank you.
I'm nice to myself.
What was your favorite save?
Good job, buddy.
Favorite save would actually probably not be the one. I mean, I had a couple where I was fully extended and I got the glove up.
Choice is
you
nice.
know, kind of like the Freddie Anderson off the end boards and like a little bit sprawled and just lifted and got it. And there was visual connection, and so the glove was. But there's an element of luck in that. So my favorite save would be a guy cutting in under the left circles and having early identification. There was a back door, and he's an elite shooter. And my temptation would normally be to step out on him, but I got across for the back door. Is there any better feeling than the backdoor tap in that they slam off your pads because you've read it? I think that's my favorite save in the world. Like the guy just absolutely uncorks one, but there's nowhere to go. It's because you've made a read, you're there early, and the puck has nowhere to go, and he just slams it off your pad, and everybody makes like, ooh, and you're like, yeah, I read that one perfect. The save execution actually isn't difficult. It's all about the read, right? I think that's my favorite. What's your favorite save? That's my favorite save.
I enjoy it just when they shovel it into my pad, even if I'm not really making the save, they more miss the shot, but it looks like I'm making the save. I enjoy that one.
I'll take that.
Yeah. I'm on board with that. Let's get to, we should mention Dwayne Roloson expected in here in a little bit. Looking forward to that conversation with the Censoring a Feature interview. But right now, the Hockey Shop gear segment, the Warrior Ritual V4 stick coming up as things crank up over at the Hockey Shop and thehockeyshop.com.
Yeah, as you'll hear in this gear segment with Cam, one of 3 Warrior sticks that launched recently, including what we suspect might be the best value in goaltending. We're going to go through all 3 of them, but you may have noticed that's a lot of Warrior. That's 3 weeks in a row with new Warrior equipment, and there's more coming. It's that time of the year when companies roll out new gear, and right now in stock, they've got a lot of Warrior equipment. A reminder, because not all companies allow the Hockey Shop or any company to ship cross-border, but Warrior does. And so when you hear the prices around these, they are in Canadian dollars. If you are American, you can get this stick delivered to you. So some real savings there, and also real savings all around the Hockey Shop as the new stuff arrives and they clear out the old stuff. I actually know somebody. We had this discussion a couple of weeks ago over the pants guys. Remember we were talking about the golf wedges, and would anybody go out and buy the Warrior pants previous generation because of the flat front now that it's discontinued and is more of a rounded NHL style barrel? I know somebody that went out and bought a new set of Warrior pants because they didn't want the rounded barrel. They love that flat front. So those are, I believe the old previous generation of Warrior stuff is up to 50% off at the Hockey Shop right now on thehockeyshop.com. So this is what happens. The new stuff comes in. They got to have room for it. In addition to 30,000 square feet at the store, they got like another 10,000 in warehouse where all this new stuff gets shipped into and stored. They need to make room on the shelves for all the new gear, and that means great savings for you. Check it out at the Hockey Shop, source for sports on hockeyshop.com. All as the new stuff comes in, you'll see the old stuff discounted.
What's the previous line?
Before V4, I think it's V3.
Okay.
It's about the only thing about their price points and labels that makes sense to me.
So if you're looking
as you'll
for
hear,
the old line, go V3. The new line is the V4, and we're talking about twigs.
Warrior Ritual V4. Shaft geometry changes throughout the lineup. Exciting news that we're going to get to before the end of this video. Welcome back to the Hockey Shop Source for Sports. I'm in Goalie Utopia with Cam, and we do have the Warrior Ritual V4, version 4 of the stick. 3 different models.
I feel like you're stealing my thunder here. Like I mean, just that was all you.
Let the people know what's coming, Cameron.
Yeah.
Waiting until the end is called burying the lead. 25 years in journalism. I still do it all the time. So, Warrior Ritual V4. What's new?
What's new? Let's talk about this. First of all, this nice, shiny, chromed out V4 stick. So they've updated their graphics, especially for the Warrior logo themselves. That nice, shiny chrome pop. I mean, you're going to see this thing from the other side of the ice. Catch the light, maybe, shine it in the shooter's eye a little bit. Maybe a little bit of advantage on your side. I don't know. I mean, I think it could be an advantage. Shiny.
Trying to beam the light off the camera there. Okay,
so one thing that you notice, and
are new.
I know you don't go to the gym, but how lightweight the stick is. Like, you're not struggling to hold it at all. So, like, that's important, right?
I'm soft as butter, and I don't work out. So, absolutely, it is soft. So, can you give me a gram measurement on this thing?
So, clearly, Kevin would ask a situation like that, and clearly Cam would have the number, and it's just going to appear above my head due to a nice little bit of camera editing from our wonderful editor, Dave Hutchinson.
But clearly, Cam didn't actually have the answer, so we had to edit that in later. Come on, let's go.
Okay.
3 different models.
Flying forward here, the biggest thing here that I really, really like, and this is now evident on all 3 price points, RTL, Pro, and just the V3, or V4, sorry.
So, hold on.
ASG shaft.
Okay, I'll let you do this.
ASG shaft. ASG shaft. So what is the ASG shaft?
I can read. It's the asymmetrical shaft geometry.
So
that's the one that has that little sort of, it's got a twist, it's rounded, it's all of these things.
So we can play props here for a quick second.
Oh, yeah, props.
Yeah. So when you go play the puck off this mid kick stick, by the way.
Mid kick point.
Yes.
So
the glove slots nicely into that overall feel. So let's show it off a little bit easier, the actual camera. When I go play, I can get supreme torque out of that. Very, very much. You can really put your palm and you can really put that pressure into the stick to get that flex out of it.
It's kind of hard to see, but Like it's thinner. If you think about the way your fingers would grip something, you can sort of see that it's thinner on this edge, a little thinner on that edge. And as you round through, it's a little thicker on this edge. So just kind of naturally slides into the hand.
As the glove slots right in there. Best thing, rounded edges as well, all the way throughout that shaft. So we're reducing flat points in terms of for shots as they're coming off of the stick.
Where do sticks break when they get hit in the shaft? On the sharp edges, and there aren't any sharp edges. So that's going to reduce shaft breakage.
Correct. Great call out by Warrior. Great overall innovation by Warrior. It's something we saw on the previous sticks. I think the M2 was the first one.
Try not to get confused. It's now on all three.
M2i
That's
was
the whole point here. It's on all three of the Ritual models. Now, what are some of the other differences in the models? Why don't we start? Because I know I'm going to be confused by this. And yes, folks, I'm easily confused.
Yes.
But what is the lowest price point?
Okay.
Which one is that?
So that is the V4. This is the lowest price point.
Well, it's still really light.
Yes. First thing, it does stand out. Weight, number one.
A little heavier, but
between the three, yes, it is going to be obviously the heaviest. It's the lowest price point at $179.99. That's Canadian dollars.
It's literally half of the highest price point, less than half. So it's a significant difference. So $179.
I mean, I can think of sticks that are a higher price point than this that weigh more, to be honest.
It's a nice stick. So you don't get quite the same shiny poppy graphic.
No, not the same level of carbon count.
A little bit heavier.
Yes, that's why that heaviness comes into that stick.
Right.
You don't have that same level of
the shaft.
Exactly. And I think that's a great benefit and a great
What about options in terms of curves and lies?
So when it comes to curves, you're going to see twist all the way through. So twist is similar to a P31 curve, a P4 curve in CCM's world, T31 or MC31 in True's world in particular.
That's all that's available on this through all three, or just on the lower model?
Through all three stock off of the wall. Now, Pro
custom order,
and RTL do have custom options, and there you can get the mid curve as well as the wedge.
Okay, so let's go to the second price point then.
Second price point,
which is what? What's it called?
V3 Pro.
Oh, they did it again. The Pro is the second price point?
The Pro is the second price point.
Because I've always aspired to be an RTL goalie at the NHL, not a Pro. Just kidding, Warrior. I tease because I love. Okay. confusing levels of sticks aside, the Pro is the second price point.
Correct.
Tell me how that makes sense. What are the differences?
So basically it comes down to the carbon count of the stick. So higher minimum carbon count when you're using the RTL. Beyond that, spec wise, we're still very, very similar. So what's that mean? RTL is still going to be a lighter weight than the Pro.
Okay. So you just basically get better carbon and lighter weight as you move up.
Exactly.
The options. And the second price point Pro, $259. The highest price point RTL, you're into a $379 stick. Of course, that is Canadian currency. I think that's like the price of 2 cups of coffee in the States right now with the exchange rate. And because it's a Warrior product, you can ship it across the border.
That's correct.
For our American friends, you can take advantage of your dollar relative to ours and save some more money and get it shipped down there.
Once again, custom is available at both the Pro and RTL price points.
So what are we looking at for custom? Colors
and curve.
And curve.
I need to put your name on it.
What name, colors, curve. Anything else?
That's to be it. Slightly different shoulder shape. You can get a steeper shoulder shape if you wish.
Just the steeper shoulder. Okay. And folks will remember the Warrior, a little bit thicker, their shoulders, I find, but softer edges this time.
Yes.
In the earlier versions, I found that the edges here, some goalies complained that they were a little too sharp and felt them in their hands. This one feels a little better. Last one, Cam, because this one's important. We've talked about it before. Sizing, paddle sizing. Are we now conforming with everyone else?
Yes, that's correct. So this is something that we saw on the M4 model.
So
yes,
these sticks, the new Ritual V4, correct. All three models, your length of your paddle is going to be similar, right around the same as Bauer, CCM.
25 Bauer, 25 Warrior, now lining up.
Important if you're ordering online. Because in the old days, right, the 26.5 would be the equivalent of a 25, roughly. They had a different measuring system. Now they're on board with everybody else, so there's similarities. Again, if you're a longtime Warrior user, something to be very cognizant of before you order this stick online. 3 different price points, 3 beautiful sticks. I got to say, like, as impressed as I am with the high end, the 179 V4 price point, that's a really good price point. Getting the shaft geometry, the ASG in there, I think that's going to be a really attractive stick for a lot of people too. And the one thing we've learned over the years is sometimes the lighter carbon also can break a little easier. Sometimes the cheaper sticks can be a little more durable. So really good value there at $179. Cam, if they got any questions about the different models, what you have in stock, or custom ordering, because if you're going to custom order one, you might as well do it from the guys that know best.
604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790, or check us out at thehockeyshop.com.
See, that was an education, not just on the sticks, but the fact that you can find a real quality product at a lower price point and a lower level on the hierarchy of a team's product line.
Yeah, and as we said, what makes this one special, the base model Ritual V4 stick has the special shaft geometry that they've added at the higher price point. It's the first time they brought it down to the lowest price point. So, and listen, this is a conversation that goes beyond Warrior in terms of as the price gets cheaper, the lower price point sticks, what you're typically dealing with is a lesser quality carbon fiber, or you're not getting, it's not going to be as light. The kick point might not have quite as much whip to it. Like it might be a little bit of a stiffer, less feel when you're passing the puck. But one of the things about that carbon is it tends to be a little more durable. I'm experiencing it right now in CCM. I ordered the second price point stick. I ordered 3 of them. I liked it so much. Same kind of thing. The XF Pro has the new shaft geometry that a lot of guys love. Sort of thicker at the top, a little more rounded edges, thinner down the bottom fingers. I really like it. And you also get it in their second price point stick, the XF Not Pro, just the plain old XF. And I have found, anecdotal as it is, not science, but the same guy keeps beating me blocker side and going off the shaft of my stick in warmups. And the Pro lasted only so long. I mean, it's just the reality of any stick if you get it up there. And the XF has lasted quite a bit longer. I bought 3. I'm still in my first one, and that was around January. So, you can get more durability out of the second price points in a lot of different brands.
Don't make the assumption that the heavier stick, which is a little less whippy, as Kevin says, don't make the assumption that that's a negative. Some people want that whippier stick because they feel they can really launch the puck if they're going for that long outlet pass. But the more important thing is, can you stop a puck behind the net when it's getting rimmed and you have to make a defensive play? And a lot of goalies like a stiffer stick in that situation. Of course, if you're big and strong like Darren is, you'd like the stiffer stick for taking those long shots as well. But do think about, there's multiple reasons for why you want to stick a certain way. And so that stiffer one might actually be the better move for you anyway. I was wondering, guys, Woody rails a little bit about how they name the sticks. Maybe somebody will be courageous enough to refer to their 3 sticks in their line as the practice, the warm-up, and the gamer.
I don't mind that.
If they do, they will probably at least order them correctly, as opposed to having Pro as the lowest or the mid-price one. I tease because I love.
I thought you were onto something when you said you've got the Pro model and then you've got the not Pro model. I think that's a good way to label them as well. Would anybody go down that path?
Well, it's a little tougher when you have 3. And like I said, Warriors' new Ritual V4 line has 3. It's just this plain old V4. The Pro is the second price point, and the top end is RTL, which, in fairness, as much as I've railed against it, and let's be honest, I rail against a lot of things because I'm old man yelling at clouds, in fairness, is consistent throughout their lines. They've simplified their offerings in chest, in pant, and they've stuck with this nomenclature throughout, even though I vehemently disagree with Pro being the second price point. It is at least consistent throughout their new line.
And Warrior is not the only company that does this.
Right, as we pointed out. Bauer does it. Doesn't Bauer do it too? Don't they call like the Pro, their second price point is Pro?
Speaking of consistency, consistently other companies call their second model
this is going to be...
There's got to be something there. There's got to be a marketing angle.
Much
smarter minds than us know what they're doing.
Much smarter minds than us, Darren. But it doesn't mean I have to like it, even if it becomes an industry standard. Again, old man yells at clouds.
Love it. And really, really do appreciate everybody over at the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, and what they do for In Goal Radio, the podcast, when we stop by for all of those gear segments, make Woody and Hutch just feel right at home. So keep up the great work there, and can't wait to see what's next on your shelves. Let's get over to the Stop It Goaltending You, the app parent segment. And before we dive into what Hutch has on offering today, Stop It Goaltending You, the app, cranking up for what is already the off season for a lot of people.
Yeah, and once again, multiple levels and layers for you to choose from in terms of how you use the Stop It Goaltending You app this week. You've got the quick hit primers focusing using the words I am. So a lot of self-talk, how to make sure you frame your self-talk properly. Oh, framing, that's something that we get into with Dwayne Roloson. That's part of the quick 1-minute primers. They've got a video this week. They're quick hits or 5-minute videos. So if you want to invest 5 minutes in getting better as a goaltender, this week's, interestingly enough, given our conversation earlier, is on simplifying chaos. How do you simplify things when it's nuts in front of you? So simplifying chaos. They've got a goalie IQ segment where they watch film and break down tape with one of the Stop It Goaltending coaches, focusing on Jake Ottinger and Mackenzie Blackwood, two of the big names in the playoffs so far, and a drill of the week, 2-player behind the net with pass out options. You can walk through that one, see if it's one. Maybe there's something in your game. Pass outs from behind the net have been an issue. They've got a nice, easy to follow drill, 2 players pass out options that you can take on the ice at your next practice if that's something you need to work on. So all those options available this week in the Stop It Goaltending You app. And of course, in our minds, and we're biased a little best of all, you get a subscription to In Goal Magazine as part of your monthly subscription to Stop It Goaltending You, the app.
Hutch.
This week, answering a question from a parent who wants to know what to do with their 8-year-old goaltender this summer, and specifically, is it appropriate to send them to a goalie school? I have some thoughts on this that I wanted to share. I probably talked about what's best in the summer and so on in the past, more generically, but specifically to the younger goaltender, and I'm talking 5, 6, 7, 8 years old here. So what are my thoughts that I wanted to share? Well, first, as you can imagine, number one has to be fun. If a kid is not having fun, there is no point doing it. You are only going to harm their love for goaltending and their love for the sport. So don't send them somewhere that they are not going to have fun. And that sounds like an easy thing to say, but I do think as a parent, you have some specific things that you should do to ensure that this is true. It's okay to go to a goalie school in the summer, by the way, especially if you're one of those kids who doesn't get enough support during the year. Getting a little development, learning some basic skills will only make the sport more enjoyable and more successful for your son or daughter next season. So by all means, if you want to spend a week or two at goalie schools this summer, go for it. But do a little bit of research so that you can ensure that they're having fun. And I would say, are they a good personality match for your son or daughter? Whether you have the opportunity to go and see these coaches working now before you make a decision, or whether you go to the online directory, look up a couple of schools in your area, and click that button that allows you to request more information from the school. Ask a few specific questions about how they handle the youngest kids. I wouldn't be afraid to say, could you put me in touch with another parent of someone who has worked with you at a similar age so I can ask them some questions and find out more, because you're making a significant investment for your child, and this is going to be a significant moment in their development. So I think it's okay to ask some questions. Are they a good personality match for your son or daughter? The schools that my child went to at age 5 and 6, and yes, I know it sounds a little crazy, but my 6-year-old was at a goalie school. He was just out there to have fun. He actually didn't participate in the entire camp. He did the ice sessions, and then the other stuff. We actually went to a golf course one afternoon and just hung out as father and son. But those schools were a really good match for his personality because the primary thing they did was have fun. And the coaches knew how to interact with the kids so that it would be fun. They weren't just managing bodies on the ice and making sure they got through the drills. They were really interacting with the kids on a personal level. I actually think finding a school, if you can, with a lower student-teacher ratio would be best, especially at the young ages. We find this flip typically because just the economics of coaching, usually you're charging less to the younger kids. And so you have a few more kids on the ice than you would with the older kids who tend to be spending a little bit more money. But the younger kids can actually handle a lot more reps in the net. Their bodies are not stressed by the moving around the crease as they are when you get to be 6'2" and 180 pounds and having to start and stop around the crease. That's exhausting. And kids have a limited attention span. So whether they have a lower student-teacher ratio so your kids can be in the net a little bit more, or are they doing something between drills to keep the kids' attention? We've talked here before, and we've talked with coaches before about how there's real value in the time when you're not in the net to observe the other goalies and mentally prepare for your time in the crease and so on. But that's too much to ask of an 8-year-old. So are they doing something like some puck handling drills and so on? I've seen schools where they have a coach dedicated to keeping the kids amused who are not in the crease for a particular drill. And it's not just amused, it's doing useful things as well. I would ask, is the off-ice conditioning appropriate for a kid of that age? Like I said, my son opted out of some of it. I know that based on what we do for a living, it's a little easier for me to ask these things, but we did some other things rather than the off-ice training in some of these camps. I've seen camps that absolutely bury kids and take away from their on-ice experience because they think they need to be so cool and work so hard off ice. On the other side of it, if I can give credit to our friend Eli Wilson, he brings in a very experienced PE teacher to run his off-ice sessions. Happens to be a goaltender as well, so he understands the position, but he's providing a really good atmosphere where the kids can learn some things off ice, but still be ready to go on for that next ice session, which is what you're investing the most time and energy into. So that's my thoughts about the camps. I would also just add, as we've said here before, skating. You don't want to drive your 8-year-old into the ice with power skating if they're going to hate it. But the more opportunity they have to be on their blades, including player skates, to be a player or a referee, they will be better goaltenders or better players later on down the line. You need to build that skating foundation. And finally, get them out there playing other sports. Don't make it a summer of goaltending only.